Hey guys, I am Lana. This is from Corporate to Crystals. We're back for another video. I wanted to do a video to talk about my corporate life, to talk about my career. I definitely have made a big change, and I think like the title of my channel, From Corporate to Crystals, is a line in the sand, um, showing my transition. And I just feel as though my past career, I have a lot of pride in it. I accomplished a lot of things I was really proud of, and I worked with so many incredible people and teams and brands, that I just like, it almost feels like I can't ever, I wouldn't be who I am today without all of those experiences, right? And so I just kind of wanted to like shed some light on those experiences. Um, Both from like a pride perspective, but also to kind of like outline and give some context about who I am. I know there's definitely some people out there who this might shed some more clarity onto like who I am as an individual, that this could be very valuable for. And then for others, you guys just have been along the journey with me. And I feel like as you've been kind of like along the journey, this is the kind of pre this journey. And so some of this could be interesting. Either way, I'm just grateful you're here. Always appreciate your love and support. And yeah, flow with me through past Lana career. Okay, so let's start. I come from really humble upbringing or humble beginnings, let's say. And I like that. Like it made me hustle. I've never had anything handed to me, and I never felt like, because of that, I've never felt entitled to anything. Anytime I see something that I want, I go and work to get it. And then that's also led me to a path where I've thought I wanted things, and then once I had it, it didn't make me happy, so I had to backtrack. And I've talked about that a little bit before. I was very material focused, or money focused, which as a Taurus, it's kind of like, a journey for us as well. So, yeah. Also, before I dig into this, I really do think it's important for me to say that we have a very diverse set of circumstances on our planet. Okay. And I would consider myself like a common person. I'm very unusual. I'm not common. I'm not normal. I'm very unique. But at the same time, I have been existing as a common person. I was put into the middle of the matrix, and I didn't know it was a matrix, and I had to break out of the matrix. And that is the higher perspective of it. But on a human level, like, I'm just a common person who's been existing as a common person, right? So when I talk about my journey, to some people, this journey and my opportunities and my pay and all of these things are like chump change. But to me, it's everything. To me, I'm someone who has earned every single opportunity that she has, or has had. I'm someone that my salaries, I felt very fortunate for. And to some, the chump change that it may seem like, to me, it was life changing. And there's other individuals within my reality who are not as fortunate and not as blessed to have the opportunities and the resources that I had. And I was very well aware of that. And so I always tried to have gratitude and protect everything I've earned and everything I've worked for. I also had men in my reality on multiple occasions who were manipulating me for money. And so I want to spell that out very clearly, because it isn't something that I am flaunting or bragging about, because there's so many people with so much more than what I have or had. But the reality of the situation is we have such a diverse, like, set of circumstances on this planet that, to some people, they would view my situation as being in poverty. And then to others, they would view me as being like having really successful career and like material lifestyle, right? And so I just want to spell that out. The contrast in regards to experiences of life really play into this. But for me, in my experience as like a common person, I'm really proud of everything I accomplished. So yeah, I wanted to kind of like spell that out first. So yeah, humble beginnings. I started working at age 16. I was always really empowered by work. It was something that I enjoyed. It gave me independence. It helped me find freedom in a lot of ways. And then as a Taurus, I like, material things, and I like food and stuff like that. So it didn't hurt. So I had some different jobs in high school. I was a barista, which I loved that job for a while, or for years. I transferred and did some of that in college too. But one of my like first memories that was like career specific, that was like, it felt really important to me, is the first time I purchased a MacBook. Because when I purchased my MacBook, I was like 17 years old, and I like had been saving up to buy this computer, and I was going to use it at college, and I got a credit card for the first time. So maybe I was 18. Anyway, you get my point. Got a credit card for the first time, and then once I got that credit card, I purchased the MacBook on it and then paid it off right away because I was really afraid of credit cards. And then I went off to college. And when I got off to college, I had my barista job still, and I had the option of if I was going to live in the dorm or if I was going to live off campus. And I knew it was going to be harder if I lived off campus because I was going to have to hustle harder. Because I was going to have to, everything, when I went to college, my schooling was handled, but I had to pay for everything else, which I knew was a blessing. Okay, there's so many people who took out student loans, and because of those student loans, like I understood that it was a blessing that I did not have student loans. So I want to be very clear on that. So understanding that that was a blessing for me, that I didn't have student loans to deal with, I had to still pay for my rent and my lifestyle, like everything I was experiencing in college. So I was working and going to school at the same time. If it took longer than 4 years, then I was going to have to pay for it, and I didn't want to have to deal with that. So I was like busting my butt during college to ensure that I got everything done as quickly as I could. And then there was another really incredible opportunity that happened. As I kind of went into the College of Design at ASU, I was, I've talked about this before, I was like, am I supposed to be a designer? And I kept like kind of searching for that and realizing it didn't feel like any of it was fitting. But I got an incredible opportunity for internship at Apple. And at the time it felt like a dream. It felt like a dream because, to get an internship at a really competitive company, and it happens to be one I'm very passionate about. That's why I referenced the MacBook story, because I really valued that company. I really, I was drinking the Kool-Aid. Like, I was so into the culture. I love their products. I really value the quality of their products. And so it just felt to me like I've always had a connection to Apple products. It's always felt really important to me. And Steve Jobs was someone I always admired from a business perspective. He's a creative genius, and look at what he built, right? So there were a lot of elements to him that I looked up to and admired. And so it was such a dream come true when I got to be an intern at Apple. And to get emails, like Steve would send the whole company emails, and to get emails from Steve Jobs, I like would print them out, and I still have some of them, I'm pretty sure. And I just felt really like, wow, And then I was lucky enough to get offered a full-time position, and I did that for a little bit after my internship, but then I wanted more money. And the opportunities with Apple, as you kind of like expand in corporate, a lot of them are in California, and I didn't want to move to California. So I started looking at other opportunities. And that's when I got an opportunity to be in the leadership development program for Verizon. And that was an opportunity that was like a 2-year-long program that basically you are showcased a bunch of different departments within their organization, in order to get exposure, in order to learn, in order to grow, and then kind of see what department feels like the best fit for you as a leader. And so it was like such an incredible opportunity for me. It was like 6-month rotations in different positions. And so you start in the retail stores, you kind of learn about the retail stores because that's their bread and butter. Then you look at managerial roles and you learn through that. I also experienced sales operations, business to business, where you're actually working with other organizations. What else? Marketing. We had a rotation with marketing, and I'm pretty sure that's all of them. But the last one, or maybe it wasn't the last one, but my favorite one was what they called the indirect channel. And the indirect channel is where I ended up getting a job because I was just so passionate about it and it seemed so fun. And so it was basically supporting resellers who sold Verizon products, but they were not Verizon directly. So think when you go to an Apple store, you purchase a Verizon iPhone, right? Potentially. Or Best Buy, Costco, or some of those smaller stores that are Verizon branded, but they're not Verizon corporate stores. Those are all indirect resellers. And so I worked under the indirect resellers branch, and that was super cool because I got exposure to a bunch of these big corporations, a bunch of the big brands. And I supported all sorts of different companies. I supported mom and pop locations that had like 2 or 3 employees. And they were, doing exactly what they should be doing, which is selling phones and like bringing products to rural Arizona, which I thought was just like so cool to watch every sale really impact a business owner's life, right? I thought that was really beautiful to be a part of that experience. And then a little bit bigger from that, we would have like a retailer who would have 2 stores. And they would be, because I was supporting Northern Arizona for a big chunk of this. And I think that's key, actually. When I got this role, I knew I was not going to be qualified to get the role in Phoenix when the role became available. And the reason for that is because it's a very competitive role, and I was 23 years old at the time, and there were so many people who were going to be more qualified for that role in Phoenix, because when those roles came available, they were very, lots of people applied for them. Like district managers from around the country would apply for them. So I knew that there was a very small chance that I would get it in Phoenix at age 23 with minimal experience compared to some of them. But I did know that I could probably get the opportunity in a rural territory, because Phoenix is a hot territory. It's a big territory, so it really, like, they want their best people on it. But if I could like earn my keep and start in a rural territory and prove myself, then maybe I could migrate to the big city. And that's exactly what I did. I was supporting all sorts of different resellers up in northern Arizona. And I felt really lucky and like privileged to get that experience, because whether it was mom and pop locations with just a couple, employees, up to Walmart, and learning about all the different organizations and helping them strategize and work on merchandising and marketing and all these things, to have that opportunity at age 23 it required a lot of growth pretty quick, but it also is like such an incredible opportunity. And the coolest part is I proved myself, and after a year and a half or 2, I then was able to migrate back down to Phoenix. And when I got to Phoenix, I had kind of earned the ability to have my own territory down there. So that's when I got handed the Apple account, which I had already worked for Apple, so I knew all about Apple and I loved Apple. And so I had Apple, I had Costco, not all of them, but I had all the Apple stores in Phoenix at some point. And then I had Best Buy, Costco, some of this more like Verizon branded resellers. And those were really cool too, because they're so invested in the products that I got to work really closely with them on training initiatives and like working side by side with their leadership teams to drive their internal initiatives, which, it was such a cool experience. So imagine being like working alongside their district managers to help them drive their initiatives, help them drive their team performance. And I get to be a part of that journey with them. And that required a lot of relationship building and a lot of trust, because I'm technically not one of their employees. But yeah, the experience was so life changing. It taught me so much so fast. And so I did that role for however many years, maybe 5 years, and it got to a point where I had had like all of the accounts, and I had earned some really incredible like awards internally, and I felt really proud of myself. Um, and then I was like ready for something else. So I did an opportunity with the Verizon marketing team for a little bit, and then it got to this place where the telecom space was just no longer aligned to my values. So I decided to pivot and do something totally different. And so at this point, I had only ever worked for like really big corporations and, or, you know, pretty big. And then all of a sudden I pivot into a like 30-person team where I'm a business development manager for a design firm. And the design firm is like in the tech space still. So it was still like in the wheelhouse that I was pretty used to. But the design firm basically is a design firm that manufactures products for technology support. And they had been kind of like focused on the point of sale space at the time, but they were looking to venture out into video conferencing and a couple other things. And so as I was talking to the owner about the opportunity to come on and like be part of the expansion into video conferencing, we decided to work together, and I was a business development manager, a partnership manager, and a bunch of other things. At a small company like that, you wear a bunch of different hats, you know. But really what was so exciting about the opportunity, not only was the team one of the like most incredible teams I've ever worked with, I just felt very lucky to be a part of that team. I think we really busted our butt, and we were put into some really tough situations, and it just felt like we always came together and handled it to the best of our ability. And I feel like that was a really pivotal part in my career to see the importance of company culture and employee like engagement. And I felt very lucky to be a part of a lot of the experiences that that team and I were a part of together. I would not have been able to accomplish anything that I accomplished from a growth perspective, a monetary perspective, or even just showing up to help my clients without my team at that company. So shout out to any of them if they ever watch this. I know a couple of you follow me. Anyway, so yeah, that team was awesome. But at the same time, the opportunities, once I was given kind of a little bit of free reign, like they were making the products, designing it, they had marketing materials, and it was like, help us expand into this market. And so I had free reign to kind of get creative and do it however felt right. And I just went after it. And to see us expand as quickly as we did in the ways that we did was so incredible. And I don't want to get into numbers and things like that, but it was unreal to watch the growth within, I would say, like a 3-year time frame. To go from a brand new, market, for lack of better wording, where there were no sales because the product wasn't even manufactured yet. And then all of a sudden we have manufactured product and we're expanding into this market, and I'm the one driving the strategy, and I'm the one driving like contacting partners, contacting resellers, contacting distributors, and etc. And then the team is helping from the back end from an operational standpoint and things of that sort. We kicked butt, and we kicked butt so much. I'm like so proud of that team. Sorry. When they say like too much growth too soon or whatever it is, like that's what it was. It was like it exploded. It exploded in such a beautiful way. But it was a lot for the whole team, and it really like took a toll on the team. Like you have to have a strategy, a growth strategy, and we were all feeling it. And so that's when it got to this place where it was like, company culture and strategy has to be such a key part in growth. And it was it was really tearing down the team morale because we couldn't keep up with the growth. Our customers were being impacted and things like that. And, you know, I'm telling you, I was working with some of the biggest companies in the entire world. Like you name the brand, and I can guarantee you at the very least they got samples from us if they didn't purchase from us. It was just the most incredible thing to watch, because some of our partners that we were working with were such huge advocates of our product, and they believed in us so much. And to work as a partnership manager alongside those resellers, those partners, and then to get introductions to some of the largest companies in the world, to work on massive projects with some of the largest organizations in the world. Like, it was unbelievable. I felt so lucky, but I also, it was a lot of work. And at times it required me to be on international phone calls at like 4 a.m. my time because it was whatever time their time. Working with a huge company, I mean, multiple of them, and working on these projects that were so in depth and so specific and so precise and required so many different details to it. It really, really worked some skills, and there was a lot of growth that it required. And we made a lot of mistakes as a team as well. And that's what makes me emotional, because there were some really tough situations that we were all in together, and we pulled together to the best of our ability. But it was hard. It was hard, for sure. And it got to a point where I couldn't do it anymore. And it was really hard because my ego was just like, oh my gosh, the growth, these opportunities, these projects, these brands, like, how could you possibly walk away from this experience, this opportunity? Like, there's just nothing, like, I saw nothing but like opportunity. But I was dying. I was literally dying. And I was like killing myself just to take care of the customer. And I was doing it at my own expense and at the expense of my team too, because it's like, we're putting these orders together, these projects together, and the team hasn't even finished the first massive project. And we've got like 2 or 3 more in the pipeline, right? It's like, the growth was so unbelievable that I felt so blessed, but I also felt so unhappy. I felt so unhappy. I felt so depleted that it ended up getting to a point where I just had to quit. I had to walk. There was tension between leadership, and I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And I ended up walking. Of course, with a timeline that we like worked on together, but I left that job with no job. I hadn't found a job yet, and I resigned, and I made sure to hand off my responsibilities in the best way I knew how, and worked with the team so it didn't impact customers and it didn't impact the team as much as I could. But I was absolutely tested by God to choose myself and choose self-love with that role, because it blew up to such a level that I just was like, we don't have the capability as a team to continue to manage this. So unless that changes, I can't have it be at my own detriment. But it was a lot, and I didn't want to be letting customers down. And it felt like I was putting myself in a position, or I was being put in a position where it was like the customers and the business were more important than me. And I couldn't do that anymore. So I had to choose me. And I went on unemployment. I called it fun employment. And I had no job for a few months. And I went to Italy and traveled. And it was the best thing I could have ever done. I took a 50% pay cut, more than that. And went to a mental health tech company and just kind of like released a big chunk of responsibility off of my plate and just got back to me a little bit, and focused on my mental health and focused on like we had a really incredible team there too, and worked on some really cool projects with that team, and just felt really inspired in something I am passionate about, which is mental health. And um, taking a big pay cut to go to that role felt awesome, perfect. It felt like a breath of fresh air. It felt like exactly what I needed. Um, because I just realized I didn't need all of the other stuff. Like the money, I had people telling me all the time, like, don't quit that job. Are you crazy? You're making great money. And I'm like, and I'm miserable, you know? It didn't matter to me. And I was like constantly depleted and constantly spinning my wheels, and it just wasn't it. And the moment that I quit, I just felt relief. I felt relief, and I felt like a massive pay cut migrating into a new role didn't feel like I was making a mistake. It felt like I was getting pieces of my life back. And so then that job, we get into the pandemic and they're doing layoffs, and I'm a part of the layoffs. And I was like, all right, I can feel in my intuition that I am not supposed to stay in corporate America anymore. Like I could feel it. And I didn't know what that meant. And at the time I'm going through a spiritual awakening and my mind is melting and the pandemic's happening and I got laid off and all this stuff. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, you're fine. You're fine. You got this. And I knew I wanted to do coaching. I didn't know if that was something I was actually going to execute to do. But when this all happened, I was like, I'm going to do coaching. And so I took a pivot and I did coaching, and you guys know the drill. I came on the channel and I just decided to believe in myself and give it a shot. And as I was building this, I actually had some other really cool opportunities I've spoken about briefly on here. I was helping with a farm here in Arizona that my like friends and colleagues built a nursery, and the project has since shifted, but it was such an incredible opportunity to like be a part of building a farm and learning about farming. And so I was essentially building this channel, building up whatever this platform is, working on farming projects. And then the other thing I was doing was walking dogs. And it's so funny because I had so many people judging me for walking dogs. But I had already had such incredible career experiences that I just didn't want to stay stuck in corporate. Like if I was going to go back to corporate, I wanted to go back to corporate after knowing that like that's where I'm supposed to be. But the moment I stepped out of it and really started just playing and having fun, I'm like going to the farm and like helping plant seeds and like being a part of nature and watching things grow, and then, you know, watching this channel grow and like helping everybody on the channel and like coaching sessions with you guys. And then the dog walking was a really interesting experience, because what was really happening with the dog walking in a lot of ways is God was humbling me. My ego was being shattered in, you know, this whole experience, but the dog walking especially, I was sitting there and I'm like, okay, well, I can feel the test. I can feel I am not supposed to run back to corporate. I have to trust this path. I have to have faith. I'm on a journey, and I don't know where this journey is taking me. It doesn't make any sense, but I can tell the one thing I know for sure is I am not supposed to go back to corporate. I've seen it. I've done it. I've tried it. And I could feel it wasn't for me. And so I was just like playing and seeing, and the dog walking thing, there was this big ego thing in the way for me of like, you're going to be a dog walker, you know? And I had to like really jump over some serious ego hurdles to be a dog walker. And it was because I had no energy. I needed to exercise. But this journey had drained me and depleted me to such a level that dog walking was a really good way for me to get outside, move my body, get some exercise, get some fresh air, make a little bit of money, but like it really isn't very much money. I was doing it for the love of dogs. And there was another element of this that while I was in corporate, one of my biggest stressors or my biggest concerns was that my dogs were home without me all the time while I was working. And I just always had so much guilt around that. And so when I was back home working from home and had my dogs there, I felt this like really big urgency to help other people who were in the offices or working their 9 to 5s, or there's a lot of medical people who have dog walkers because they're working such long shifts and their dog is just stuck at home all day while they're working these shifts. And I remember the stress that I felt while my dogs were stuck at home while I was working. And so I wanted to like pay it forward and kind of help alleviate some of that off of the people, because I remember feeling so like heartbroken that I couldn't help my dogs more. And so my dogs were in a decent place because I was home a lot at that point, and I wanted to help other people with their dogs because I had the time and I had the energy, and it gave me a little bit of extra money, but it wasn't about the money. But at the same time, the amount of joy that I got out of that, the amount of exercise, the sunlight, the movement. It was a flexible schedule, so I could schedule it around coaching sessions. I could schedule it around the farm. I could schedule it around my life. And I had so much love to give. And I had so much energy going through my freaking body on this journey that it's almost like I didn't even know what to do with it. You know, it's like I can only work out so much, and my dogs got all the love that I could supply to them, but I just felt like I had so much love to give, and I could give it to all these dogs who were stuck in their homes, and their owners, it would help their owners too, and it would alleviate the stress that I felt when I was at the office and my dogs were at home. And so it just felt like this win-win-win, like I love animals so much. And I wanted to like help the owners and love on some animals and also make a little bit of money. But at the same time, like I just understood that the journey I was on was not about money at this moment. The journey I was on had a very different purpose by design. And I think one of the most interesting things that I saw as a dog walker, which again, it was a huge ego hit for me at the beginning, because I really wanted to do it because I love dogs. I was like, this would be so much fun. Like, I love dogs. Like, I get to just see people's dogs and get paid to walk their dogs. But my ego was like, yeah, you're not a dog walker, Lana. And it's like, well, then who are you, Lana? And I had to really sit with myself and break my ego down and like get out of my own way and realize I wanted to hang out with dogs. I really, really did. And I met some awesome owners, but incredible dogs. And I felt so lucky. I really did. It brought me so much joy. And not only did I give them so much love, they gave me so much love. The amount of healing that I got out of that experience is so crazy. So crazy. Those dogs healed me, truly. I have a lot of gratitude for that experience, but there were a lot of pieces to it that were very spiritual because I had to break through huge chunks of my ego because I thought I knew who I was in a career world, right? And to have a businesswoman or whatever I thought I was now being a dog walker, I had to really ask myself, like, why is that a problem? Like, why is my ego having such a hard time with that? Like, who do I think I'm better than people? Like, am I too cool? Like, what is it about that role that, like, I am having a hard time with? Admitting that is something I would enjoy doing, something that would bring me joy. And then I just decided to say, screw it, and do it. And man, I had so much fun with those dogs. I really, really did. And I learned a lot. One of the biggest things I learned is that human beings we have a lot to learn in regards to how we treat one another. And it's crazy because one of the things I noticed as a dog walker is that the people with the presentation of having the most money, they never tipped. And the people who tipped the most are the most unsuspecting ones. And I always thought that was so interesting. The people who treated me the best were always the most unsuspecting ones. It never was the people who you would think that the people with the most amount of money are going to be like the ones who tip the most or something like that. No, absolutely not. The people who tipped the most or the people who treated me the best were always the people who are just another me, you know? They didn't view me as a dog walker. They viewed me as someone who is taking care of their child, the love that they have for their dog. They viewed me in a lot of ways as like a co-parent at that moment, someone who I was sharing with them the update of their child, their love, their animal, right? And that's how I operate because that's how I feel about my animals. So it was a very interesting experience, and I understood why God had me doing it, not only to break down chunks of my ego, but also to see the way that people treat one another, to see the way people treated me. And, you know, they have no clue about me at all. They just thought I was a dog walker, and they didn't know what my intentions were. Like, why was I walking dogs? And they don't need to. It's none of their business. At the end of the day, I was offering a service and they were a paying customer, right? But that whole experience was really a very psychological experience for me to understand like the way that human beings treat one another. And yeah, I learned a lot. And I also learned a lot about myself. And I do not care what someone's job is. I just no longer care about any of that. And I hope and pray that I never treated people the way that some people treated me. I really hope that. And if I did, I am so, so sorry. Because people treat you like you are worthless. People treat you like you are worth nothing. And I'll tell you what, I had to really ask myself, like my ego was like, you have no clue who you're talking to, or you have no clue who I am, you know, like, and I just had to understand that I was on mission. Not only was I giving all of these dogs so much love and them giving me so much love, but also I was on mission, learning about humanity, learning about the way that human beings treat one another. I was in disguise, undercover as a freaking dog walker. And I had no clue why God was taking me on that journey, but I figured it out very clearly. And like, people treat each other very poorly. It's very interesting. It's very sad. It's very sad. But I learned so much. And I have absolutely so much gratitude for that experience. I was very sad when I had to call it quits, but God pulled me away from it to focus more on a lot of other things. But yeah, it's been a wild experience from a career perspective, and I have been humbled so deeply to learn so many things about myself, about humanity, about corporate, about making money, about not making money. And I have appreciated every single experience. And I don't know where I'm headed next, but I'll tell you what, I have a completely different perspective as I move forward. And I have so much gratitude for that. Okay. I'm going to wrap it up. I love you guys. Okay, bye.